Willie, Shawnee, Lisa, and Tawny were riding a bus downtown to the French Quarter to meet with Madame Philomene. Now, the quarters have their share of voodoo shops and tea rooms that tell your fortunes and sell folk potions, spell books, and herbs. But they all have gaudy displays in their windows, like shrunken heads, crystal balls, tarot cards, Ouija boards, and all manner of pictures depicting old voodoo rituals. But Madame Philomene's shop was in a French-style townhouse on Esplanade Street, with no signs, no gaudy windows or decorations. You wouldn't even know it was a voodoo shop behind that door. "Is this the place?" asked Tawny. "According to the address, yes," answered Willie. He looked around for a doorbell and found a chain with a silver ring. He pulled it, and a bell rang so loud they had to cover their ears. A few seconds later, the door opened, and a very lovely Creole woman greeted them. "You must be the Scooby-Dooby gang. Where's your dog with the irritating voice?" she said, smiling. The children looked at her, puzzled for a second. Lisa finally answered, "That would be us." The woman invited them in and said her name was Rosalie, and the madam would be right with them. As they sat and marveled at all the old pictures and paintings hanging on the maroon-hued walls, the furniture only consisted of 2 purple sofas, some chairs, a round table, and a crystal ball in the center of it with 4 wooden stools. Rosalie asked them if they needed anything. "We're fine," said Shawnee as she got up to examine the pictures. With that, Rosalie left the room. The rest of the kids got up to join Shawnee and look at the pictures. Most of them were in black and white and looked like they were from the 20s and 30s. Some of them were people dancing around a huge fire. Others were shrunken heads and altars and wooden huts. Lisa pointed to a picture of a white man and a Creole woman kneeling next to a headless animal carcass. "Doesn't that look a little bit like Madame Philomene and Codger?" she asked. They all gathered around the picture and looked closely at it. "Me and Mama Me were lookers back then, yes," said Philomene as she entered the room. The kids quickly leaped back from the wall. "That was taken in Dedham, Haiti in 1928. Mona Me and I tried to get rid of a bog ride, a crazy mean demon. We burned it away with a brew of goat's blood and other concoctions. That was a fine day." The kids looked at her, totally confused. "Sit, children, and I'll give you the nitty-grit." The kids sat down nervously. Me, Codger, and the others around the world hunted unearthly creatures that caused distress, most frighteningly people, or cause malicious damage. We don't mess with those trifling spirits. We hunt the dangerous, the fierce, the evil devils. "Where did they come from?" asked Shawnee. Then Rosalie walked in with a tray of tea and cookies. She laid them on the coffee table and smiled at Willie, and walked back to the kitchen. Philomene smirked at Willie as she answered Shawnee, "All over the place, Ami." The kids stared with her at a puzzled look. "What I mean is all over the infinite universes of the living and the so-called dead." "So-called?" asked Lisa. "Nothing truly dies, my child. Life is energy, and energy cannot be destroyed. It just takes another form." Willie was about to speak, but Philomene stopped him. "We don't have time for me to school you right now. If we survive the ghastly one, I will be happy to answer your questions." Then she got up and walked to a desk and pulled out a map of the city and its suburbs and spread it over the coffee table. "Now," she said, Which one of you is closest to this Tommy fella? Everyone looked at Shawnee. I guess I am, she said. Do you love him? Asked Philomene. Yes, she said as she lowered her head in despair. But I don't think he feels the same way. Philomene smirked. Oh, the naivete of the young. It is so frustrating. Come here, child. She took Shawnee by the arm and sat her down and pulled a chain with a teardrop-shaped crystal out of her vest. I need a drop of your blood, mon ami. She then pricked Shawnee's finger and drew a drop of blood and covered the pointed end of the crystal. She held it over the map. It was motionless at first, but after a couple of minutes it began to move in a circular motion. As it circled, Philomene moved her arm around the map, slowly chanting in Haitian. She stopped over a part of the city near the lake called Teak Beach. There the crystal stopped completely, and after a second or two, a drop of blood fell on the map. Ah, she said, we have a winner. The blood drop landed on an empty part of the map. Philomene rubbed her eyes and slightly woeful. What's wrong, Tawny? Asked, shaking nervously. This is not good in the least bit. She got up and grabbed a bottle of brandy out of the cabinet and took a big swig and put it back. She sat down again, reeling a bit from the brandy. This is the part of town called Dupuy Verger in New Orleans East, near an old cemetery thought to be one of the first graveyards in southern Louisiana. It means spirit grounds, bad place, full of bad mojo, really bad. Evil doings, defile, unsavable place. We never heard of it, said Willie. Long story short, black magic, slow torture, and sacrifice of infants, priests, virgins on dark flame pyres. Cannibalism, things you can't imagine. I hope my boo can convince the Ark Spectres to enlighten us. If not, we dead meat. Wait here, and we'll go soon. The children sat down and started to shake. What do you think we're going to do? Asked Willie, and everybody just looked at him. I don't know, said everybody at one time. As Sid and Codger entered the shabby building, Sid felt faint, almost passing out. Codger got to him before he hit the floor. He grabbed the amulet Sid was wearing and told him to stare at it. Sid opened his eyes and looked intensely at it. Codger began to chant, and the amulet gave off a reddish glow that pierced Sid's eyes. He saw in his mind images of beautiful cherubs dancing with horned, goat-legged satyrs, blood-red clouds shaped like angels, and devils, and people among an indigo sky. Then he saw a ravishing, beautiful woman dressed in a long silken gown with long golden hair and chilling green eyes. She held out her right hand and softly touched his forehead and said with a melodic voice, "Fear not, young one. Your fire will burn like the eye of day. The conflict in you will be resolved." Then a flashing, blinding light hit his eyes, and he was back at the ramshackle shack. Codger was holding him tightly. "Did you see the golden nymph, my boy?" He looked at him. "Yes, I think so," Sid said with a slightly deeper voice than he had before. "Good," said Codger. "You've been accepted. Let's go." They entered a room that had a circular table a bit to the left of center, with a candle that looked like a rock burning in the middle of it. On the walls next to and in front of the table were 6 long mirrors about 6 feet high and 3 feet wide. Sid and Codger stopped at the table. "What's with the mirrors?" Sid asked. "I'll tell you as we go downstairs." Then Kadra whipped out a rune stone with a carving of a shield and serpent on one side and the sideways Jesus fish on the other. He placed it in the hole in the door, and the door slowly swung open. The corridor was lit with the same candles that were on the table. Sid touched one of them. "It feels like a rock," he said, puzzled. Kadra replied, "That's because it is, son." Sid was more confused than ever as they walked on. Then they came upon a set of stairs that went down into the cellar. They were unlit, but there was a light coming from the bottom. They slowly descended the stairs, entered a large room with symbols all over the walls. There were 2 doors on either side, and one wall was lined with long tables with all manner of scientific equipment and alchemistic paraphernalia and books. The other side was lined with old wooden chairs. Kadra grabbed 2 of the chairs and brought them to Sid where he was standing. "Have a seat, son, and I'll try and answer some of your questions as simply as I can. We have a while till Philomene arrives." Sid asked him firstly, "What is this place?" "This is our armory, I guess you can call it. It's where we keep our metaphysical arsenal. The mirrors you saw up top contain 6 dobers, which are guard demons with a particular nasty disposition. If someone that's not accepted or tries to pilfer the place enters, the candle will extinguish itself and release the dobers. Let's just say it wouldn't be pretty at the end." Kadra noticed Sid looked like he was beginning to accept the idea of magic and demons and witchcraft. "So why are they in the mirrors?" asked Sid. Kadra responded, "Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and placed another mirror behind you?" "Yes," Sid said. "It looks like a bunch of you down a hallway that goes on forever, or something like that." "Right," said Kadra. "With the dobers not being flesh and bone, they are torn helplessly into many separate entities, rendering them incapacitated. And when the candle is extinguished and there's no more light, hence no more reflection to imprison them." Sid shook his head up and down in excitement. "That's so cool, Grandpa. That's really cool." Kadra smiled and grabbed his bag and pulled out 2 beers and gave one to Sid. They toasted, and Kadra said, "I had a feeling you were one of us." "One of who?" Sid asked. "One of the accepted and the exceptional," replied Kadra. Then a small light on the wall began to blink. Kadra stood up. "Well, looks like my crazy voodoo lady has arrived." Just then a strange lime green and red church van pulled up to the door of the armory. As Philomene turned off the engine, Sid and Kadra walked out the door, carrying 2 duffel bags filled to capacity. Philomene told the others to stay in the van as she ran up to Kadra and said in a brash voice, "He's hiding in the doopies, love." "Holy shit," Kadra groaned. "I must be getting senile. I didn't even think of that, damn it." Philomene softly put her hand on his face and in a soothing voice said, "We can't bring the kids to the doopies, dear." Kadra walked to the van and collapsed against it. "Sid has to go. We'll need him. We have to have someone close to Tommy, so at least he has a slight chance of fighting against the damn thing." Philomene looked up and down at Sid. The boy doesn't seem to look like the little wussy boy I saw last night." Kadra looked at her. "He's been accepted by the nymph," Kadra said. "Besides, he's my grandson." Then they walked back to the van, and Philomene told the other kids that she was going to bring them home. Suddenly, Shawnee yelled, "Bullshit!" The silence was deafening. "I, for one, am going with you. It was my blood that told you where he was, so I think that entitles me to be there." And everybody else was just saying, "Yeah, we want to go too." Philomene held out her hand, and the kids put their hands on hers. Then she grasped them tightly with both hands, squeezing them hard. "You little chits better do everything we tell you to do, and when we tell you to do it. Understand?" Everyone agreed. Then they all piled back into the van and headed for the Doopies.